Morning, Philippa. How wonderful. The sun is still shining like it was in episode 2 with you. Down south is gorgeous.
I know, we've got the weather down here. You should come and visit, Theresa.
I am going to come and visit. When you get on the train from Scarborough, Scarbados, it feels like you're going to another world once you get past York. So I'll bring my passport.
Lovely, that would be great. We've got no border control here though, so don't worry about it.
Amazing.
Welcome.
So here we are, episode 3. Who ever thought we would be on episode 3? This is such a delight. I look forward to my time with you recording our podcast.
I look forward to that as well as just our general chats, to be honest, Theresa. So
Absolutely. So, this is really a good example of what we're going to talk about today. So, today we are going to explore and share our experiences and our style and how we do it with regards to the beginning of the coaching relationship. So, what does that look like? What does that feel like? How vulnerable do you need to make yourself be, or do you keep your barriers up? What does that look like? And definitely, our coaching relationship building a podcast has left us both very vulnerable.
extremely, and uncomfortable at times as well.
We live
But
and
we're
breathe.
learning loads.
We live and breathe everything we talk about. So you're in safe hands in that respect. Let's have a little think about this then. The start of a coaching journey can be a little bit nerve-wracking. It can be a little bit a step into the unknown. But sort of the basis of coaching, I think, is if you want something that you've never had, you've sought out a coach to try and help you get there, but you've got to be willing to do something that you've never done. So, what does that look like? How does that feel? So, how do you build, Philippa, sort of your trust with a client? How do you get them on the journey? How do you put them at ease? What does that mean for you?
Yeah, thanks, Teresa. And as we said, it's always good to have a chat with you. I think we get insights from each other as we chat as well, which is really fabulous. I can't wait for your quotes today, by the way. So I think in terms of sort of building trust with a client, there's a bit just about the listening and really trying to understand, but there's actually a trust equation. As you know, I love a bit of the data side of things. But there's a trust equation that was developed by David Meister, Charles Green, and Robert Gulford, who said that trustworthy is a combination of credibility. So it's your expertise, your credentials, the accuracy of what you say, plus reliability, which is consistency on delivering promises, and intimacy, which always sounds a little bit too, a
Da,
bit too
da,
much.
da.
It's about your connection really, so and how open you are. But all of that can be undermined then from self-orientation. So just for us as coaches, we're all about the client. So we should not be having too much self-orientation that undermines that. But really for us, it's about making sure that we're building credibility plus reliability plus the intimacy. So that connection bit. And it's really important to do that in order to build a safe psychological space, because that's where you can start to feel open and a little more vulnerable. But it's also that safe psychological space is that everything we say in a coaching session is confidential. It's like almost the what is it, the lawyer client privilege, that it's all completely confidential. So really building that safe psychological space. And that starts a little bit like the way you and I start. It's a bit of that chemistry. So we tend to start with a chemistry session. So I would have a chemistry session with the client just to get to know them a bit more. If they've got an idea about what they actually want to achieve, that's always good. But if not, then as a coach, you can also help to work on what is it, what really are the goals, what's the objectives that you want to achieve, what's your vision. And then I think you build as well some of that trust with clients through the contracting, the goal setting, the planning, and tracking progress. So that is a little bit going into the what does it mean for being supportive, because at the end of the day, the client is the one who's driving their own agenda. but you're holding them a bit to account as well. So there's a bit of using radical candor, which is a framework that was developed by Kim Scott on having the right level of supportive, but also knowing when you challenge a bit more to try and push a bit further to get the client to their potential. And I think all of that starts to build up really the trusted relationship over time between a client and their coach. So yeah, so that's sort of my take on it. I'm interested from your side if there's anything different from you on the way that you build up trust with a client, but also maybe looking at it from the other side because we love a bit of looking at alternative perspectives of being a coachee. So as a coachee, then how did you deal with being more open, maybe than was originally comfortable for you?
Great question. I'm going to answer the first part first, which was sort of what do I do?
Yeah,
Same as you, we're held by our confidentiality. We have to do that. We have a code of ethics that we're all bound by. If you are a professional coach, you have a code of ethics like you would do in any other profession, and we stick very closely to those. So that gives a level of trust. I loved was it radical candor that you talked about?
and it's brilliant.
It made me think about that saying about the word listen has the same letters in as the word silent. And that's really good in that respect of as a coach, we are trained to listen. And we listen not just with our ears, but with our eyes, with our senses, with the energy. And it's important that we know when to be silent, which I know some of you out there might find that really hard to think that Philippa and I can be silent, but we can in order to allow the space. And sometimes that awkward silence, when you're with anybody and it goes quiet for a time and nobody says anything, we think that's awkward. But actually, that's where the brilliance lies. And when you're in coaching and it goes silent, allow the space, allow the ideas to flow. And I just love that because that's often where those light bulb moments come through. You also talked about accountability and you talked about sort of being a critical friend and challenging in the right place. Absolutely. And from an accountability point of view, the way I run my business is that after every session, I send you a coaching log, which just captures the main points because it's hard as a coachee, I think, to listen, talk, think, write, remember. So I will send you a coaching log to help you. And also it gives me something to keep you accountable to, which I know when we've looked back at the end of a contracted sessions to the beginning, you can see the journey, which is amazing. So yes, allow yourself to be vulnerable. So how do I deal with that? It's interesting. I had a group of coachees who the word spread through advocacy. Oh, used to Theresa. And and I'm not being sexist here, but the majority of them were men. And the word spread, be warned, she'll make you cry in the first session.
What are you doing?
Just listening. And I think that's a big part of what we do. Sometimes people just don't ever feel heard and they don't have that safe space to open up. And that's where the beginning is really important, that chemistry session that you spoke about. Allow yourself to be vulnerable. When I was allowed myself to be vulnerable with the coaches that I've worked with, absolutely transformation came. And that's what we're about, creating transformation.
Yeah.
Here's my quote.
Oh, then I was waiting for it.
Here's my quote. Make a promise to yourself that no matter how challenging the journey may be, you will never surrender your dreams. I love it. Those could be
That's
dreams.
brilliant. It's very
Oh,
inspirational.
thank you. I thought so too. I don't know who wrote it, so I'm going to say I wrote it, but I didn't. So the beginning of the journey is really, really important and it will set the groundwork for everything that's to come. And the more you allow yourself to be immersed in it, the better.
Yeah, yeah.
So, Philippa, come on, tell me. We've done a short session this time. What's our message today?
I think I mean we've talked quite a bit about the trust and you build that through my equation, obviously. Well, not mine, but the equation I mentioned earlier. But it's about building it consistently, nurturing it through honesty, and that includes being challenging where it's appropriate, and it's maintained through loyalty. So the trust is really, really vital. It's interesting what you were saying as well, about the code of ethics. So maybe to add on to that, you and I are both members of the EMCC. And we also have supervision. So as coaches, we also, I mean, I know you said that you have a coach, but it's like supervision is a bit of coaching for us, so that we can also just make sure that we're keeping in tune with that code of ethics. So yeah, I think it's really about that keeping ethical, building the trust, and also that vulnerability. And I think it's so important with this vulnerability piece. The more you give, the more you will get. And you have to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. It's the place that you really learn. And so, for anyone who's listening, has listened to our last podcast, if you want to be vulnerable with us, then come and chat to me, come and chat to Theresa, and see if it works for you, as a coaching relationship, as well. But yeah, really, really good to chat again and to think about trust. I know in our next podcast, because we're still carrying on the chats, then we're going to go on to number 4, which is my lucky number. So I'm looking forward to that one. And we're going to talk a bit more about what actually happens during the coaching relationship. So a little bit more depth on that. But as usual, amazing to chat to you today, Theresa, and looking forward to the next one.
I can't wait. I'm looking forward to number 4. Whoever thought we'd be on number 4? Have a great rest of your week, and we'll see everybody else in 2 weeks' time. Take care.
I look forward to it. Cheers.